Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. You know, Baptists are known for their potlucks. In fact, they're known for their potlucks a lot more than they are for their fasting. Today's passage of Scripture, Jesus deals with the concept of fasting. You know, the story is told about a school teacher, long before we were so politically correct about everything, encouraged the children to bring an object that was important to their family in their times of worship to show and tell. The first child says, well, we don't go to church anywhere, but here's the TV remote. And everybody kind of snickered. The second child was a Jewish child, and he showed the Star of David and explained the meaning of the Star of David. And all the children were impressed. The third child got up, and he was a Roman Catholic, and he brought us rosary beads and he explained how it helped them with their prayers. Well, the fourth child was a Baptist, and he held up and said, here's our casserole dish. In the times of Jesus, times of fasting and feasting were important to the people of Jesus' day. And like every other issue, the Pharisees tried to use the concept of fasting to cause dissension between Jesus and his disciples. In Mark chapter 2, verses 18 to 22, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition, it said, once when John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, some people came to Jesus and asked, why don't your disciples fast like John's disciples and the Pharisees do? And Jesus replied, do wedding guests fast while celebrating with the groom? Of course not. They can't fast while the groom is with them. But someday the groom will be taken away from them, and then they'll fast. Besides, who would patch old clothing with new cloth? For the new patch would shrink and rip away from the old cloth, leaving an even bigger tear than before. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the wine would burst the wineskins, and the wine and the skins would both be lost. New wine calls for new wineskins. Here's the question, why don't you fast? John's disciples and the Pharisees do, so there's got to be something to it. Why don't your disciples fast? And Jesus' quick answer is, it's not time for fasting. It's time for rejoicing. The Son of Man is among you, and God is doing miracles, and lives are being changed, and people are being healed. And it's a time for rejoicing, not a time for fasting. And he gives an illustration of a wedding feast. Certainly during the wedding feast, we're not fasting, are we? No, we're enjoying the wedding feast. We're celebrating the new life and the new couple and the goodness of love and grace. And God is being honored by how we're sharing and celebrating together. Plenty of time for fasting later. And then he explained how God is doing a new thing. And this is where they're struggling to understand. The Pharisees were certainly struck with God's old way of doing things, and they were kind of stuck there. But God was doing a new thing. He uses two illustrations for that. He says it's like you got these old clothes and you put a brand new patch on it. As soon as you wash it, boy, that new patch just shrinks right away. It makes the tear worse than before, and you haven't really patched anything because the old clothes can't handle the new patch. Or then he described wineskins, and they're used to taking the skin of a goat or the skin of a lamb and tying up the legs and filling it full of wine. And it worked when the wineskin was new because as the wine fermented and expanded, the flexible, supple skin could grow with it. But an old wineskin is hard and brittle, and you put new wine into it, it's just going to break, and you're going to lose both the skin and the wine. Jesus explained, God is doing a new thing. We've got a new covenant, a new excitement. Not the old covenant where the lambs have to be sacrificed over and over and over, but the new covenant in Jesus. One sacrifice, once for all. And we need to understand that God's doing a new thing that may not fit in our old way of doing things. The Apostle Paul described the Christian life As new things have come, the old things have passed away. And we need to understand that God is about the business of doing new things. In our lives, we need to let God do a new thing and let go of some of the old things that we hung on to so hard and so strong and so long, and let God do the new thing he wants to do. So why are we not fasting? It wasn't time to fast. There are times for prayer and fasting, but there's also times for rejoicing and feasting. May God do a new thing in your life this week. God bless you.